chilled to the bone. What can Freddie be doing all this time? He's been gone 20 minutes.
Not so long. But he ought to have got us a cab by this time.
You won't get no cab not till 11:30, missus, when they come back after dropping their theatre fares.
But we must have a cab. We can't stand here until 11:30. It's too bad.
That ain't my fault, is it?
If Freddie had a bit of gumption, he would have got one at the theatre door.
Well, what could he have done, poor boy?
Well, other people got cabs. Why couldn't he? Well, haven't you got a cab?
There's not one to be had, for love or
Oh,
money.
Freddie, there must be one. You can't have tried.
Well, no.
Well, it's too tiresome. Do you expect us to go and get one ourselves?
No, I tell you, they're all engaged. The rain was so sudden. Everybody had to take a cab. Now, I've been to Charing Cross one way, and nearly to Ludgate Circus the other, and they're all engaged.
Did you try Trafalgar Square?
Well, there wasn't one at Trafalgar Square.
You haven't tried at all.
You really are very helpless, Freddie. Go again, and don't come back until you have found a cab.
I shall simply get soaked for nothing.
But what about us? We're to stay here all night in this draught with next to nothing on. You selfish pig.
Right, I'll go. I'm frightfully sorry.
Oh, now then, Freddie, look where you're going, dear.
Terribly sorry.
Oh, there's manners for you. 2 bunches of violets, trod in the mud. Oh.
Well, how did you know that my son's name was Freddie, pray?
Oh, he's your son, is he? Well, if you'd done your duty by him as a mother should, you'd know better than let me spoil a poor girl's flowers and then run off without paying. You pay me for them?
Oh, nothing of the sort, Mother. The idea...
Please allow me, Clara. Do you have any pennies?
No. I've nothing smaller than a sixpence.
But I'll give you change for a tanner, kind lady.
Give it to me. Now, this is for your flowers.
Oh, thank you kindly, lady.
Make her give you the change. These things are only a penny a bunch.
Do hold your tongue, Clara. You may keep the change.
Thank you, lady.
Now, tell me how you know that young gentleman's name.
What is it?
I heard you call him by it. Don't try to deceive me.
Who's trying to deceive you? I'll call him Freddie or Charlie. Same as you might yourself if you was talking to a stranger and wished to be pleasant.
Sixpence thrown away. Really, Mamma, you might have spared Freddie that.
Oh,
Sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, dear.
Well, if it's worse, it's a sign it's nearly over. So cheer up, Captain. You buy a flower off the poor girl?
I'm sorry, I haven't any change.
But I'll give you change, Captain.
For a sovereign, I've nothing left.
Oh, no, do buy a flower off me. I'll give you change for £0.50. Take this for tuppence.
Now, don't be tartan. There's a good girl. I really haven't any change. Oh, stop. Here's 3 halfpence, if that's any use to you.
Thank you, sir.
You be careful. There's a bloke standing here behind taking down every blessed word you're saying.
I ain't done nothing wrong speaking with a gentleman. I've a right to sell flowers if I keep off the curb. I'm a respectable girl, so help me. I never spoke to him except to ask him for a flower off me. Oh, sir, don't let their charge against me. They'll take away my character. They'll drive me on the streets for speaking with gentlemen.
There. Who's hurting you, you silly girl? What do you take me for?
It's all right, he's a gentleman. Look at his boots. She thought he was a copper's knock, sir.
What's a copper's knock?
Well, sort of copper's knock. I mean, what else can you call it? Sort of,
Take me Bible off and never say a word.
Shut up. Do I look like a policeman?
Well, what do you take down my words for, then? How do I know you took them down right? You just show me what you wrote about me. What's that? I ain't proper writing. I can't read that.
I can. Cheer up, Captain. Buy a flower off a poor girl.
I call him Captain. So don't let him lay a charge against me for a word like that. You couldn't let them...
I make no charge. Really, sir, if you are a detective, you need not begin protecting me against molestation by young women until I ask you. Anybody can see the girl meant no harm.
He ain't a tech. He's a blooming busybody, that's what he is. I tell you, look at his boots.
And how are all your people down at Chelsea?
How do you know my people come from Chelsea?
Never you mind, they did. And what are you doing up so far east? You were born at Lisson Grove.
Oh, well, I'm was there my leaving Listen Grove? Weren't fit for a pig to live in. I had to pay 4 and 6.
Live where you like, but stop that noise.
Come, come, he can't touch you. You have a right to live where you please.
Park Lane, for instance. I'd like to go into the housing question with you, I would.
I'm a good girl, I am.
Do you know where I come from?
Hoxton.
Blimey, you know everything, you do.
There ain't no call to interfere with me, ain't.
Of course you ain't. Don't you stand it from me. You take us for dirt under your feet, don't you? Catch you taking liberties with a gentleman.
Yeah, tell him where he comes from. Do you want to go fortune-telling?
Cheltenham, Harrow, Cambridge, India.
Quite right. May I ask, sir, do you do this for your living at a music hall?
Well, I have thought of that. Perhaps I shall someday.
No gentleman, he ain't to interfere with a poor girl.
What on earth is Freddie doing? I shall get pneumonia if I stay in this draft any longer.
Oh, court.
Will you please keep your impertinent remarks to yourself?
Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, I didn't mean to. I do beg your pardon. Your mother is Epsom, unmistakably.
How very curious. I was brought up in large Lady Park near Epsom.
What a devil of a name. Oh, excuse me. Oh, you want a taxi, do you?
Don't dare speak to me.
Please, please, Clara. We should be so grateful to you, sir, if you found us a cab.
Hey, I knowed he was a plainclothes copper.
A police whistle, that's a sporting whistle.
No right to take away my character. My character's the same to me as any lady.
I don't know whether any of you noticed, but it stopped raining about 2 minutes ago.
I can tell where you come from. You come from Hanwell. Go back there.
Hanwell.
Oh, thank you, teacher. Ho, ho. So long.
Frightening people like that. How would he like it himself?
I'll tell you later.
It's quite fine now, Clara. We can walk to a motor bus. Come.
But the cab? Oh, how tiresome.
Poor girl, it's hard enough for her to live without being worrited and chivied.
How do you do it, if I may ask?
Simply phonetics, science of speech. It's my hobby. It's also my profession. Happy is the man who can earn his living by his hobby. Now, sir, you can spot a Yorkshireman or an Irishman by his brogue. Well, I can place any man within 6 miles. I can place him within 2 miles in London, sometimes within 2 streets.
He'll be ashamed of himself, unmanly coward. Why don't he mind his own business and leave the poor girl?
Woman, cease this detestable boo-hooing instantly, or seek the shelter of some other place of worship.
I've a right to be the same as you if
Any
I like.
woman who utters such disagreeable and depressing sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. Remember that you are a human being with a soul and the divine gift of articulate speech, and that your native language is the language of Milton, Shakespeare, and the Bible, and don't sit there crooning like a bilious pigeon.
Ow!
Heavens, what a sound! Ow!
God!
You see this creature with her curbstone English, the English that will keep her in the gutter till the end of her days? Well, sir, in 3 months I could pass that girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even place her as a lady's maid or shop assistant, which requires better English.
What's that you say?
Yes, you squashed cabbage leaf. I could pass you off as the Queen of Sheba. Can you believe that, sir?
Of course I can. I am myself a student of Indian dialects.
Are you? Do you know Colonel Pickering, author of Spoken Sanskrit?
I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you?
Henry Higgins, author of Higgins's Universal Alphabet.
I came from India to meet you.
Well, I was going to India to meet you.
Where do you live?
27A Wimpole Street. Come and see me tomorrow.
I'm at the Carlton. Come there with me now, and let's have a jaw over some supper.
Right you
If
are.
I like gentlemen, I'm short for me lodging.
I'm sorry, I really haven't any change.
Liar, you said you could change half a crown.
You ought to be stuffed with nails, you ought. Take your old blooming basket for 6pence.
A reminder.
Not one, pass.
Hello.
Where are the two ladies that were here?
I've only walked to a bus when the rain stopped.
Left me with a cab on my hands. Damnation.
Never mind, young man. I'm going home in a taxi. Taxi fare ain't no object to me, Charlie. Here, what's in the basket?
Give me there. Something's extra.
Oh, no, don't want nobody to see it. Goodbye, Freddie.
Goodbye.
Where to?
Buckingham Palace?
What do you mean, Buckingham Palace?
Well, don't you know where it is? In the Green Park, where the King lives. Goodbye, Freddie. Don't let me keep you standing there. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Here. What's this about Buckingham Palace? What business are you at Buckingham Palace?
Of course I ain't got none. I didn't want him to know that. You drive me home.
And where's home?
Angel Court, Drury Lane, next Mickle John's oil shop.
That sounds more like it, Judy.
Well, I think that's the whole show.
It's really amazing. I haven't taken half of it in, you know.
Do you want to go over in the office again?
No, thank you, not now. I'm quite done up for this morning.
Tired of listening to sounds.
Yes, it's a fearful strain. I rather fancied myself because I can pronounce 24 distinct vowel sounds, but your 130 beat me. I can't hear a bit of difference between most of them.
Well, that comes with practice. You hear no difference at first, but you keep on listening, and presently they are all as different as A from B. What's the matter?
A young woman asked to see you, sir.
Young woman, what does she want?
Well, sir, she says you'll be glad to see her when you know what she's come about. She's quite a common girl, sir. Very common indeed. I would have sent her away, only I thought perhaps you wanted her to talk into your machine.
Yes, quite right. Has she an interesting accent?
Oh, something dreadful, sir, really. I don't know how you can take an interest in it.
Let's have her up. Show her up, Mrs. Pierce.
Very well, sir. It's for you to say.
This is rather a bit of luck. Now, I'll show you how I make records. We'll set her talking, and I'll take it down first in Bell's visible speech and then in broad rhetoric. Then we'll get her on the phonograph so that you can turn her on whenever you like with the written transcript before you.
This is the young woman, sir.
Why, this is the girl I jotted down last night. She's no use. I've got all the records I want of the Listen Grove lingo. Be off with you. I don't want you.
Don't you be so saucy. You ain't heard what I come for yet. Did you tell him I'd come in a taxi?
Nonsense, girl. What do you think a gentleman like Mr. Higgins cares what you came in?
Oh, we are proud. But he ain't ever got above giving lessons. Not him. Heard him say so. Well, I didn't come here for any compliment. If my money's not good enough, I'll go elsewhere.
Good enough for what?
Good enough for you. There, now you know, don't you? I've come to have lessons, I am, and pay for them too, make no mistake.
Well, what do you expect me to say to you?
Well, if you was a gentleman, you might ask me to sit down, I think. Didn't I tell you I'm bringing you business?
Pickering, shall we ask this baggage to sit down, or shall we throw her out of the window?
Ow! I won't be called a baggage when I've offered to pay her any lady.
But what is it you want?
Well, I want to be a lady in a flower shop. Instead of selling the corner of Tottenham Court Road, but they won't take me unless I talk more genteel. He said he could teach me. Well, yeah, I am ready to pay, not asking any favour. He treats me as if I was dirt.
How can you be such a foolish, ignorant girl as to think you could afford to pay Mr. Higgins?
Well, why shouldn't I know what lessons cost same as you, and I'm ready to pay?
How much?
Oh, there, now you're talking. I knew you'd come off it when you saw a chance of getting back a bit of what you chat at me last night. You'd had a drop in, hadn't you?
Sit down.
Oh, what if you're going to make a compliment of it?
Sit down!
Sit down, girl. You're stone.
Ow!
Won't you sit down?
Don't mind if I do.
What's your name?
Eliza Doolittle.
Eliza, Elizabeth, Betsy and Bess went to the woods to find a bird's nest.
They found a nest with 4 eggs in
And they
it.
took one apiece and left 3 in it.
Oh, don't be silly.
You mustn't talk to the gentleman like that.
Well, why won't he talk sensible to me, then?
Come back to business. How much do you propose to pay for the lessons?
Oh, well, I know what's right. A lady friend of mine gets French lessons at 18p an hour from a real French gentleman. Well, you wouldn't have the face to ask me the same for teaching me my own language as you would for French. So, I'll give you no more in a shilling. Take it or leave it.
A millionaire has about £150 a day. Now, she earns about half a crown.
Told you
She
about...
offers me 2/5 of a day's income for a lesson. Now, 2/5 of a millionaire's income a day would be somewhere about, say, £60. It's handsome. By George, it's enormous. It's the biggest offer I've ever had.
£60? What are you talking about? I never offered you £60. Where would I
Hold
get...
your tongue.
But I ain't got £60.
Don't cry, you silly girl. Sit down. Nobody's going to touch your money.
Somebody is going to touch you with a broomstick if you don't stop snivelling. Sit down.
Ow! Mum would think you was me father.
If I decide to teach you, I shall be worse than 2 fathers for you. Here.
What's that for?
To wipe your eyes, to wipe any part of your face that feels moist. Remember that that is your handkerchief, that is your sleeve. Don't mistake the one for the other if you wish to become a lady in a shop.
It's no use talking to her like that, Mr. Higgins. She doesn't understand you. Besides, you got it quite wrong. She doesn't do it that way at all.
Here, give me that handkerchief. He give it to me, not to you.
He did. I think it must be regarded as her property, Mrs. Pierce.
Serve you right, Mr. Higgins.
Higgins, I'm interested. What about the ambassador's garden party? I'd say you're the greatest teacher alive if you make good. I'll bet you all the expenses of the experiment you can't do it, and I'll pay for the lessons.
Oh, you are real good. Oh, thank you, Captain.
It's almost irresistible. She is so deliciously low, so irresistibly dirty.
Ow, I ain't dirty. I washed my face and hands before I come, I did.
You certainly won't turn her head with flattery, Higgins.
Oh, don't say that, sir. There are more ways of one than turning a girl's head. And nobody can do it better than Mr. Higgins, though he may not always mean it. I do hope, sir, you're not going to encourage him to do anything foolish.
What is life but a series of inspired follies? The difficulty is finding them to do. Never miss a chance. It doesn't come every day. I shall make a duchess out of this draggle-tailed guttersnipe.
Ow!
Yes, in 6 months, in 3, if she has a good ear and a quick tongue. I'll take her anywhere and pass her off as anyone. We shall start right now, this moment. Take her away and clean her, Mrs. Pierce.
But, sir!
Take all her clothes off her and burn them. Ring up Whiteley or someone for new ones. Wrap her in brown paper till they come.
You're not gentlemen, you're not. I know what they like of you, are
We
you?
want none of your Listen Grove prudery here, my girl. Remember that you've got to learn to behave like a duchess. Take her away, Mrs. Pierce. If she gives you any trouble, wallop her.
No, I'll call the police, I will.
But I've no place to put her.
Put her in the dustbin.
Ow!
Higgins, be reasonable.
You must be reasonable. Really, you must, Mr. Higgins. You can't walk over everybody like this.
I walk over everybody. But, my dear Pickering, my dear Mrs. Pierce, I had not got the slightest intention of walking over anybody. No, all I propose is that we should be kind to this poor girl and help her to prepare and fit herself for her new station in life.
But you know nothing about her. But what about her parents? She may be married.
Gone.
Well, as the girl very properly says, gone, married indeed. Don't you know that a woman of that class looks a worn-out drudge of 50 a year after she's married?
Who'd marry me?
By George, Eliza, the streets will be strewn with the bodies of men shooting themselves for your sake by the time I'm through with you.
Nonsense, sir. You mustn't talk like that to her.
I'm going. He's off his chump, he is. I don't want no barmies teaching me.
Oh, I'm mad, am I? Very well, Mrs. Pierce, you needn't order the new clothes for her. Throw her out.
No, you've no right to
You
touch
are
me.
a wicked, ungrateful girl. This is my return for offering to take you out of the gutter, dress you beautifully, and make a lady of you.
Stop it, Mr. Higgins. I won't allow it. It's you that's wicked. Go home to your parents, girl. Tell them to take care of you.
I ain't got no parents. They told me I was old enough to earn my own living and turned me out.
Well, where's your mother?
I I ain't got no mother. Her that turned me out was me sick stepmother, but I've done without them, and I'm a good girl, I am.
Now then, what on earth is all this fuss about? She doesn't belong to anybody. She is of no use to anybody but me.
Does it occur to you, Higgins, the girl has some feelings?
Oh, I don't think so, Pickering. I mean, none that we need bother about. Have you, Eliza?
Oh, I've got my feelings, same as anyone
You
else.
see the difficulty?
Huh? What difficulty?
To get her to talk grammar. I mean, the mere pronunciation is easy enough.
I don't want to talk grammar. I want to talk like a lady in a flower shop.
You must keep to the point, Mr. Higgins. I want to know on what terms this girl is to be here. Is she to be paid any wages? And what is to become with her after you've finished your teaching? You must look ahead a little.
What is to become of her if I leave her in the gutter? Tell me that, Mrs. Pierce.
That is her own business, Mr. Higgins, not yours.
Very well, then, when we've finished with her, we can throw her back into the gutter, then it'll be her own business again, so that's all right.
Oh, you've no feeling heart in you. You don't care for no one but yourself. Here, I've had enough of this. I'm going, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Have a chocolate, Eliza.
Well, how do I know what's in them? I've heard of girls being drugged by the likes of you.
A pledge of good faith. I eat one half,
Oh!
and you eat the other. Now, you shall have boxes of them, barrels of them. You shall live on them every day, eh?
I wouldn't have ate it, only I'm too ladylike to take it out of my mouth.
Listen now. Eliza, I think you came in a taxi.
Well, what if I did have a right to go in a taxi same as anyone else?
Yes, you have. You have. And in future, you shall have as many taxis as you want. You shall go up and down and round the town in a taxi every day. Think of that.
Mr. Higgins, you're tempting the girl. It's not right. She ought to think of the future.
At her age, nonsense. Time enough to think of the future when she hasn't any future to think of. No, Eliza, do as this lady does. Think of other people's future, never of your own. Think of chocolates and taxis and gold and diamonds.
Oh, I don't want no gold and diamonds. I'm a good girl, I am.
Excuse me, Higgins, but I really must interfere. Mrs. Pierce is quite right. If this girl is to put herself in your hand for 6 months for an experiment in teaching, she must thoroughly understand what she's doing.
But how can she? She is incapable of understanding anything.
Ow!
There. That's all you'll get out of Eliza. Ow! No use explaining. As a military man, you ought to know that. Give her orders. That's enough for her. Eliza, for the next 6 months, you are to live here learning to speak beautifully like a lady in a florist shop. If you are good and do whatever you are told, you shall sleep in a proper bedroom, have lots to eat, and money to buy chocolates and take rides in taxis. If you are naughty and idle, you shall sleep in the back kitchen with the black beetles and be walloped by Mrs. Pierce with a broomstick. At the end of 6 months, you shall go to Buckingham Palace in a carriage, beautifully dressed. Now, if the king finds out that you are not a lady, you will be taken by the police to the Tower of London, where your head will be cut off as a warning to other presumptuous flower girls. If you are not found out, you shall be given a reward of 7 shillings and 6pence to start a new life as a lady in a shop. Now, if you refuse this offer, you will be a most wicked and ungrateful girl, and the angels will weep for you. There. Now, are you satisfied, Pickering? Can I put it more plainly or fairly, Mrs. Pierce?
I think you had better let me take the girl away and talk to her properly in private. Come with me, Eliza.
Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. Bundle her off to the bathroom.
Oh, you're a great bully, you are. I won't stay here if I don't like it. I won't let nobody wallop me. I didn't ask to go to Buckingham Palace. I was never in the trouble with the police. Not me. I'm a good girl, I am.
Don't answer back, girl. You don't understand the gentleman. Come with me. Up there. This will be your bedroom.
Oh, I couldn't sleep in here, missus. It's too good for the likes of me. I should be afraid to touch anything.
You've got to make yourself as clean as the room, then you won't be afraid of it. And you must call me Mrs. Pierce, not Mrs.
Go on, what's this? This where you wash your clothes? Funny sort of copper, I call it.
That isn't a copper. This is where we wash ourselves, Eliza. Where I'm going to wash you.
You want me to get in that and Wet myself all over, not me. I should catch me death. I knew a woman did it every Saturday night and she died of it.
Mr. Higgins has a gentleman's bathroom downstairs, and he has a bath every morning in cold water.
Oh, he's made of iron, that man.
If you're going to sit with him and the Colonel and have lessons, you must do the same. They won't like the smell of you if you won't. But you can have the water as hot as you like. There are 2 taps, hot and cold.
Oh, I could not do it. It's not natural. I never had a bath before, not what you call a proper one.
Well, don't you want to be clean and sweet and decent like a lady? You know, you can't be a nice girl inside if you're a dirty hussy outside.
Oh.
Now, stop crying. Take all your clothes off. Then wrap yourself in this and come back to me. I'll get the bath ready.
Oh, I can't, I won't. It's not right. I never took off all my clothes before. It's not decent. It's not natural.
Nonsense, child. Don't you take off all your clothes every night when you go to bed?
Oh, why should I? I should catch me death. Of course, take off my skirt.
Do you mean that you sleep in the underclothes you worn in the daytime?
What else am I to sleep in?
You will never do that again as long as you live here. I will get you a proper night dress.
You mean change into cold things that lie awake half a night shivering? You want to kill me, you do?
You won't be cold in that bed. I'll put a hot water bottle in for you. Now, undress.
Only I know what a dreadful thing it is to be clean. I'd never have come. I didn't know when I was well off.
Now come along. Take that thing off.
I couldn't, Mrs. Pierce. I couldn't really. I never done such a thing.
Nonsense.
Oh.
Now, here. Step in and tell me if it's hot enough for you.
Oh, it's too hot! Oh!
It won't hurt you.
Oh! Oh, God! Oh. Oh. Oh.
Excuse a straight question, Higgins, but are you a man of good character where women are concerned?
Have you ever met a man of good character where women are concerned?
Oh, yes, very frequently.
Well, I haven't. I find the moment I let a woman make friends with me, she becomes jealous, exacting, suspicious, and a damn nuisance. I find that when I let myself make friends with a woman, I become selfish and tyrannical. Women upset everything. When you let them into your life, you find the woman is driving at one thing and you're driving at another.
At what exactly?
Oh, Lord knows. I suppose the woman wants to live her own life and the man wants to live his, and each tries to drag the other onto the wrong track. One wants to go north, the other wants to go south, and the result is that they both have to go east, though they both hate the east wind. So here I am, confirmed old bachelor and likely to remain so.
Oh, come, Higgins, you know what I mean. If I'm to be in this business, I shall feel responsible for that girl. I hope it's clearly understood that no advantage is to be taken of her position.
What? That thing? Sacred, I assure you. You see, she'll be a pupil, and teaching would be impossible unless pupils were sacred. I have taught scores of American millionairesses to speak English, the best-looking women in the world. I'm seasoned. I mean, they might as well be blocks of wood. I might as well be a block of wood. Yes, is that all right, Mrs. Pierce?
I just wish to trouble you with a word, if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Higgins.
of course, Mrs. Pierce. Come in, come in. Oh, don't burn that. I'll keep it as a curiosity.
Oh, handle it carefully, sir, please. I had to promise her not to burn it, but I think I'd better put it in the oven for a while later on.
Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. Well, what have you to say to me?
Am I in the way?
Oh, no, sir, not in the least. Mr. Higgins, will you please be very particular what you say before the girl?
Of course, I'm always particular about what I say.
Oh, no, sir. You're not at all particular when you mislaid anything, or if you become a little irritable. Now, that's all right before me. I'm used to it. But you really must not swear before the girl.
I swear? I never swear. I detest the habit. What the devil do you mean?
That's what I mean, sir. But there is a certain word I must beg you not to use. The girl used it herself just now when she started to enjoy the bath. It begins with the same letter as bath. Now, she knows no better. She learnt it at her mother's knee. But she must not hear it from your lips.
Well, I can't charge myself with ever having uttered it, Mrs. Pierce, except in moments of extreme justifiable excitement.
Only this morning, sir, you applied it to your boots, to the butter, and to the brown bread.
Oh, that. Mere alliteration, Mrs. Pierce. Natural to a poet.
Well, sir, whatever you choose to call it, I beg you not to let the girl hear you repeat it.
Very well, very well, very well. Is that all, Mrs. Pierce?
No, sir. We shall have to be very particular with this girl as regards personal cleanliness.
Of course. Quite right. Most important.
Yes, sir. Then, might I ask you not to come down to breakfast in your dressing gown? Or at least not to use it as a napkin to the extent that you do, sir. And if you would be so good as not to eat everything off the same plate, and to remember not to put the porridge saucepan out of your hand down onto the clean tablecloth. It would be a better example to the girls, sir.
Yes, well, I may do these things occasionally in absence of mind, Mrs. Pierce, but not habitually, surely.
I hope you're not offended, Mr. Higgins.
No, not at all, not at all. You're quite right, Mrs. Pierce. I shall be most particular before the girl. Is that all?
No, sir. Might she borrow some of those Japanese dresses you brought from abroad? I really can't put her back into her old things.
Yes, of course, Mrs. Pierce. Anything you want. Is that all?
Thank you, sir. That is all.
Do you know, Pickering, that woman has the most extraordinary ideas about me. I mean, here I am, a shy, diffident sort of man, never been able to feel really grown up and tremendous like other chaps, and yet she's firmly persuaded that I'm an arbitrary, overbearing, bossy kind of person. I can't account for it.
If you please, sir, the trouble's beginning already. There's a dustman downstairs. Alfred Doolittle wants to see you. Says you have his daughter here.
Phew, I say.
Send the blackguard up.
Oh, very well, sir.
He may not be a blackguard, Higgins.
Nonsense, Pickering. Of course he's a blackguard.
Whether he is or not, I'm afraid we're going to have some trouble with
I
him.
think not. If there's going to be any trouble, he shall have it with me, not I with him, and we're sure to get something interesting out of him.
About to go?
No, I mean his dialect.
Oh, yeah.
Doolittle, sir.
Professor Higgins? Here. Good morning. Sit down.
Morning, Governor. I come on a very serious matter, Governor.
Brought up in Hounslow. Mother Welsh, I should think. Well, what do you want, Doolittle?
I want my daughter. That's what I want. See?
Well, of course you do. You're her father, aren't you? You don't suppose anybody else wants her. I'm very glad to see you have some spark of family feeling left. She's upstairs. Take her away at once.
What?
Take her away. You don't imagine I'm going to look after your daughter, do you?
No. Look here, Governor. Is this reasonable? The girl belongs to me. You got her. Where do I come in?
Your daughter had the audacity to come to my house and ask me to teach her to speak properly so that she could get a place as a lady in a shop. This gentleman and my housekeeper have been here all the time. How dare you come here and attempt to blackmail me? You sent her here on purpose.
No, Governor.
This is a plot. A plot to extort money by threats. I shall telephone for the police.
Have I asked you for a brass farthing? I'll leave it to the gentleman here. Have I said a word about money?
What else did you come about?
Well, what would a man come for? Be human, Governor.
Alfred, did you put her up to it?
So help me, Governor, I never did. I take my Bible oath, I ain't seen the girl these 2 months past.
Well, how did you know she was here, then?
Well, I tell you, Governor, if you'll only let me get a word in, I'm willing to tell you. I'm wanting to tell you. I'm waiting to tell you.
Pickering, this fellow has a certain natural gift of rhetoric. Observe the rhythm of his native wood notes wild. I'm wanting to tell you, I'm waiting to tell you, willing to tell you. Sentimental rhetoric. That's the Welsh strain in him. It also accounts for his mendacity and his dishonesty.
Oh, please, Higgins, I'm West Country myself. How did you know she was here if you didn't send her?
It was like this, Governor. The girl took a boy in a taxi to give him a jaunt. Son of a landlady, he hung about on the chance of her giving him another ride home. Well, she sent him back for her luggage when she heard you was willing for her to stop here. I met the boy at the corner of Longacre and Hendell Street.
A public house, yeah?
In a poor man's club, Governor. Why shouldn't I?
Do let him tell his story, Higgins.
He told me what was up. And I asked you what was my feelings and my duty as a father. I says to the boy, you bring me the luggage, I says.
Why didn't you go for it yourself?
Landlady wouldn't have trusted me with it, Governor.
How much luggage?
Yeah, musical instrument, Governor. A few pictures, a trifle of jewellery, and a bird cage. She said she didn't want no clothes. Well, I asked you, as a parent, what was I to think?
So you come here to rescue her from a fate worse than death, eh?
Just so, Governor. That's right.
But why did you bring her luggage if you intended to take her away?
Have I said a word about taking her away? Have I now?
Well, you're going to take her away and double quick, Eliza.
Oh, no, Governor, don't say that. I'm not the man to stand in my girl's light. Here's a career opening up for her, as you might say. Listen here, Governor, you and me is men of the world, ain't we?
Ooh, men of the world, are we? I think you'd better go, Mrs. Pierce.
I think so indeed, Mr. Higgins.
The floor is yours, Mr. Doolittle.
Oh, thank you, Governor. Well, the truth is, I've taken a sort of fancy to you, Governor. And if you want the girl, I'm not so set on having her back home again, but what I might be open to an arrangement. Regarded in the light of a young woman, she's a fine, handsome girl. As a daughter, she's not worth her keeping, so I tell you straight. All I ask is my rights as a father. And you're the last man alive to expect me to let her go for nothing. For I can see you're one of the straight sort, Governor. Oh, well. What's a £5 note to you? And what's Eliza to me?
I think you ought to know, Doolittle, that Mr. Higgins' intentions are entirely honourable.
Of course they are, Governor. I thought there wasn't an arse 50.
You don't mean to say that you'd sell your own daughter for £50?
Well, not in a general way, I wouldn't. But to oblige a gentleman like you, I'd do a good deal, I do assure you.
Have you no morals, man?
I'll afford 'em, Governor. Neither could you if you was as poor as me.
Pickering, I don't know what to do. I mean, there can be no question that as a matter of morals it would be a positive crime to give this fellow a farthing, and yet I feel a sort of rough justice in his claim.
That's it, Governor, that's all I say. A father's art, as it were.
Well, I know the feeling, but it seems hardly right.
Don't say that, Governor. Don't look at it that way. What am I? Governors both. I ask you, what am I? I'm one of the undeserving poor. That's what I am. Think what that means to a man. It means he's up against middle-class morality all the time. If there's something going, and I put in for a bit, it's always the same story. You're undeserving, you can't have it. But I don't need less than a deserving man. I need more. I don't eat less hearty than him, and I drink a lot more. I want a bit of amusement, because I'm a thinking man. I want cheerfulness and the song and the band. When I feel low, well, they charge me the same for everything as they charge a deserving. What is middle class morality? Just an excuse for never giving me anything. Therefore, I ask you, as two gentlemen, not to play that game on me. I'm playing straight with you. I ain't pretending to be deserving. I'm undeserving. And I mean to go on being undeserving. I like it. And that's the truth. Will you take advantage of a man's nature to do him out of the price of his own daughter? What he's brought up and fed and clothed in the sweat of his brow until she's growed big enough to be interesting to you two gentlemen? Is £5 unreasonable? I'll put it to you, and I'll leave it to you.
Pickering, if we were to take this chap in hand for 3 months, he could choose between a seat in the cabinet and a popular pulpit in Wales.
What do you say to that, Doolittle?
Not me, Governor, thank you kindly. Undeserving poverty is my line. Taking one station in society with another, well, it's the only one that's got any ginger in it to my taste.
I suppose we must give him £5.
Yes.
He'll make bad use of it, I'm afraid.
Not me, Governor, so help me I won't. Don't you be afraid. I'll save it and spare it and live idle on it. There won't be a penny of it left me Monday. I'll have to go to work, same as if I never had it. He won't pauperise me, you bet. Just one good spree for myself and the missus, giving pleasure to ourselves, employment to others, and satisfaction to you to know it's not been throwed away. You couldn't spend it better.
This is irresistible. Let's give him 10.
No, Governor. She wouldn't have the heart to spend 10. Perhaps I shouldn't either. £10, it's a lot of money. It makes a man feel prudent, like, then goodbye to happiness. You just give me what I ask you, Governor. Not a penny more, and not a penny less.
Why don't you marry this missus of yours? I rather draw the line at that sort of immorality.
Tell her so, Governor, tell her so. I'm willing. It's me that suffers by it. I've got no hold on her. I've got to be agreeable to her. I've got to give her presents. I've got to buy her clothes, something sinful. I'm a slave to that woman, Governor, just because I'm not her lawful husband. She knows it, too. Catch her marrying me. Oh.
Pickering, if we are to listen to this man for 5 minutes longer, we shall have no convictions left. £5, I think you said.
Thank you kindly, Governor.
Are you sure you won't take 10?
Not now. Another time, Governor.
There you are.
Thank you kindly, Governor.
I beg your pardon, Miss.
Gone, don't you know your own daughter?
Blimey. It's Eliza.
What's this? That?
Don't I look silly?
Silly?
Now, please, Mr. Higgins, Don't say anything to make the girl consider.
Oh, quite right, yes, Mrs. Benny. Yes, damn silly.
Please?
I mean extremely silly.
I should look all right with me hat on.
New fashion, by George. It ought to look horrible. Well, I never thought she'd clean up as good-looking as that, Governor. She's a credit to me, ain't she?
I can tell you it's easy to clean up here. Hot and cold water on tap there is, just as much as you like. Woolly towels there is, soft brushes to scrub yourself with, and a wooden bowl of soap smelling like primroses.
And I'm glad the bathroom met with your approval.
It didn't. Not all of it. Didn't know which way to look, but I hung a towel over it.
Over what?
Over the looking glass, sir.
I'm a good girl, I am. I won't pick up no free and easy ways.
If you say you're a good girl again, Eliza, your father shall take you home.
Oh, not him. You don't know my father. All he came here for was to touch you for some money to get drunk on.
Well, what else would I want money for? To put it into the plate in church, I suppose. Don't you give me none of your lip, and don't let me hear you giving this gentleman none of it neither, or you'll hear from me about it, see?
Have you any further advice to give your daughter before you go, Doolittle? Your blessing, for instance?
No, Governor. I'm not such a mug to put up my children to all I know myself. Hard enough to hold them in without that. If you want Eliza's mind improved, Governor, do it yourself, with a strap. Evening, gentlemen.
Stop! You'll come and see her regularly, won't you? I mean, it's your duty, you know. My brother is a clergyman, and he can help you with your talks with her.
Certainly I will, Governor. Not just this week, because I have a job at a distance. But later on, you may depend on me. Afternoon, gentlemen. Afternoon, Mom.
Don't you believe the old lie? As soon as you set a bulldog on him as a clergyman, you won't see him again, Harry.
Well, I don't want to, Eliza, do you?
Not me. He's a disgrace to me, he is. Collecting dust instead of working at his trade.
What is his trade, Eliza?
Taking money out of other people's pockets into his own. That his proper trade's a navvy, and he works at it sometimes for exercise. Ain't you going to call me Miss Doolittle anymore?
I beg your pardon, Miss Doolittle. A slip of the tongue.
Oh, it's all right, I don't mind. And it sounded so genteel. I should just like to get a taxi to the corner of Tottenham Court Road, get out, tell it to wait for me, just to put the girls in their place for a bit. I shouldn't speak to them, you know.
Better wait till we get you something really fashionable.
Besides, you mustn't cut your old friends now that you've gone up in the world. That's what we call snobbery.
Well, you don't call the likes of them my friends now, I should hope. They've taken it out of me often enough before in their ridicule when they got a chance. Now I get a bit of my own back. But if I'm to have fashionable clothes, I'll wait. Well, I should like to have some. Mrs. Pierce says you're going to give me something to wear in bed at night, different from what I wear in the daytime. Only do seem a waste of money when you could get something to show. Besides, I never did fancy changing into cold things of a winter night.
Now then, Eliza, some of the new things have come for you to try on.
Ow! Ow!
Stop rubbing about like that, girl.
Pickering, we have taken on a stiff job.
Higgins, we have.
Say your alphabet.
I know my alphabet. Do you think I know nothing? I don't have to be taught like a child.
Say your alphabet.
Say it, Eliza. You'll understand presently. Do what he tells you. Let him teach you in his own way.
Oh, well, if you put it like that. A, B, C, D, E...
Stop! Listen to this, Pickering. This is what we pay for as elementary education. This unfortunate animal has been locked up in school for 9 years at our expense. The teacher to read and speak the language of Milton and Shakespeare, and the result is I, B, C, D. Say A, B, C, D.
But I'm saying it. A, B...
Stop! Say a cup of tea.
A cup of tea?
Put your tongue forward in your mouth until it squeezes against the top of your lower teeth. Now, say cup.
I can't. Cup.
Good. Splendid, Miss Doolittle.
Jupiter, Pickering, she got it at the first shot. We shall make a duchess of her. Now, do you think you could possibly say tea? Not tea, mind you. If you say B, C, D again, you will be dragged round this room 3 times by the hair on your head. Tea, 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 tea.
Well, I can't hear no difference except sounds more genteel like when you say it.
Well, if you know that difference, what the devil are you crying for? Pickering, give her a chocolate.
No, don't mind crying a little, Miss Doolittle. You're doing very well, and the lessons won't hurt.
I'll be off with you to Mrs. Pierce. Tell her all about it. Try and do it by yourself. Think about it. And remember, keep your tongue well forward in your mouth and don't try and wrap it up and swallow it. Another lesson at 4:30 this afternoon. Be off with you. Oh, bother.
Henry, what are you doing here today? It's my at-home day. You promised not to come.
Bother.
Go home at once.
I knew, Mother. I came on purpose.
But you mustn't. I'm serious, Henry. You offend all my friends.
Nonsense. I know I've got no small talk, but people don't mind.
Oh, don't they? Small talk, indeed. What about your large talk? Really, dear, you mustn't stay.
I must. Mother, I have got a job for you. A phonetic job.
No use, dear. I'm sorry, but I can't get round your vowels. And though I like to get pretty postcards in your patent shorthand, I always have to read the copies in ordinary writing you so thoughtfully send me.
This isn't a phonetic job.
You said it was.
Well, not your part of it. You see, I've picked up a girl.
Does that mean some girl has picked you up?
Not at all.
What
I don't
a
mean a
pity.
love affair.
What a pity.
Why?
Well, you never seem to fall in love with anyone under 45. When will you discover there are some rather nice-looking young women about?
Oh, I can't be bothered with young women. My idea of a truly lovable woman is someone as much like you as possible. I shall never get into the way of seriously liking young women. Some habits lie too deep to be changed. Besides, they're all idiots.
Do you know what you'd do if you really loved me, Henry?
Oh, bother. What? Marry, I suppose?
No. Stop fidgeting and take your hands out of your pockets. That's a good boy. Now, tell me about the girl.
She's coming to see you.
I don't remember asking her.
You didn't. I asked her. If you'd known her, you wouldn't have asked her.
Indeed? Why?
Well, you see, Mother, it's like this. You see, she's a common flower girl, and I picked her off the curbstone.
And invited her to my home?
Oh, it'll be all right, Mother. I've taught her how to speak properly, and she has strict orders as to her behavior. She is to stick to 2 subjects, the weather and people's health, and that'll be safe.
Safe?
Well, she's got to talk about something. Now, don't fuss, Mother. It'll be all right. Pickering's in it with me. I have some sort of bet that I'll pass her off as a duchess, and I shall win my bet, for she has a good ear, and she's been easier to teach than my middle-class pupils, for she's had to learn a complete new language. She speaks English almost as you speak French.
That's satisfactory, at all events.
Yes. Well, it is, and it isn't.
What does that mean?
Well, you see, I've got her pronunciation all right, but one has to consider not only how a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces.
Mrs. and Miss Ainsford Hill.
Oh, Lord.
How do you do? How do you do?
How do you do?
How do you do? My son, Henry.
Your celebrated son. I've so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Delighted.
How do you do?
I've seen you before somewhere. Now, I haven't the ghost of a notion where, but I've heard your voice.
Oh, perhaps...
It doesn't matter. You'd better sit down.
I'm sorry to say my celebrated son has no manners. You mustn't mind him.
Oh, I don't.
Not at all.
Oh, have I been rude? Oh, I didn't mean to be.
Colonel Pickering.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
So glad you've come. Do you know Mrs. Ainsford Hill?
How do you do?
Miss Ainsford Hill?
Has Henry told you what we've come for?
We were interrupted.
Oh, Henry, please.
Are we in the way?
No, you couldn't have come more fortunately. We want you to meet a friend of ours.
Yes, by George, we need 2 or 3 people, and you will do as well as anybody else.
Mr. Ainsford Hill.
God in heaven, another of them.
How do you do?
Very good of you to come. Colonel Pickering.
How do you do?
How do you do?
I don't think you know my son, Professor Higgins.
How do you do?
take my oath I've met you before somewhere. Now, where was it?
I don't think so.
No, well, you'd better sit down anyway. It doesn't matter. Well, here we all are anyhow. Now, what the devil are we going to talk about until Eliza comes?
Henry, you're the life and soul of the Royal Society's soirees, but really you're rather trying on more commonplace occasions.
Oh, am I? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, well, I suppose I am, you know.
Oh, I sympathise. I haven't any small talk. If people would only be frank and say what they really think.
Lord forbid.
But why?
Well, now, do you suppose that it would be really agreeable if I were to come out now with what I really think?
Is it so very cynical?
Oh, the Dickens said it was cynical. I mean, it wouldn't be decent.
Oh, I'm sure you don't mean that, Mr. Higgins.
Oh, you see, we're all savages, more or less. We're supposed to be civilized and cultured and to know about philosophy and poetry and art and science. But how many of us really know the meanings of these names? I mean, what do you know of poetry? What do you know of science? What do you suppose he knows of art or science or anything else? And what do you imagine I know of philosophy?
Or of manners, Henry.
Miss Doolittle.
Here she is, Mother.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins? Mr. Higgins told me I might come.
Quite right. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
Colonel Pickering, is it not?
I feel sure we've met before, Miss Doolittle. I remember your eyes.
How do you do?
My daughter Clara.
How do you do?
How do you do?
I've certainly had the pleasure.
My son, Freddie.
How do you do?
By George, of course, that's it. Covent Garden. What a damn thing.
Henry, please, don't sit on my writing table. You'll break it.
Sorry, Mother.
Will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression to the west of these islands is likely to move slowly in an easterly direction. There are no indications of any great changes in the barometrical situation.
Terribly funny.
What was wrong with that, young man? I bet I got it right.
Killing.
I'm sure I hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about. It runs right through our whole family regularly every spring.
My aunt died of influenza, so they said. But it's my belief they'd done the old woman in.
Done her in.
Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza? She come through diphtheria right enough the year before. Fairly blue with it she was. I saw her with my own eyes. They all thought she was dead. But my father, he kept ladling gin down her throat till she came to so sudden that she bit the bowl off the spoon.
Dear me.
What call would a woman with that strength in her have to die of influenza? What become of her straw hat that should have come to me? Somebody pinched it. And what I say is, them as pinched it done her in.
What does doing her in mean?
It's the new small talk. To do a person in means to kill them.
You surely don't believe that your aunt was killed?
Do I not? Them she lived with would have killed her for a hat pin, let alone a hat.
But it can't have been right for your father to pour spirits down her throat like that. It might have killed her.
Gin was mother's milk to her. Besides, he poured so much down his own throat that he knew the good of it.
Do you mean that he drank?
Drank? My word, something chronic.
How dreadful for you.
Not a bit. It never did him no harm, what I could see. But then he did not keep it up regular. On the burst, as you might say, from time to time, and always more agreeable when he had a drop in. When he was out of work, my mother used to give him 4pence and tell him to go out and not come back until he'd drunk himself cheerful and loving like. There's lots of women has to make their husbands drunk to make them fit to live with. You see, it's like this. If a man has a bit of a conscience, it always takes him when he's sober, and that makes him low-spirited. A drop of booze just takes that off and makes him happy. Here, what are you sniggering at?
The new small talk. You do it so awfully well.
If I was doing it proper, what was you laughing at? Have I said something I oughtn't?
Not at all, Miss Doolittle.
Well, that's a mercy anyhow. What I always say is... Well, I must go. So glad to have met you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye, Miss Doolittle.
Goodbye, all.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Doolittle? is it?
Walk? Not bloody likely. I am going in a taxi.
Well, I'm sure I shall never get used to the new ways.
People will think we never go anywhere or see anybody if you're so old-fashioned.
I dare say I am being very old-fashioned. But I do hope you won't begin using that expression, Clara. I've got accustomed to hear you talking of men as rotters and calling everything filthy and beastly, though I do think it horrible and unladylike. But this last is really too much.
It's all a matter of habit. There's no right or wrong in it. Nobody means anything by it. And it's so quaint and gives such a smart emphasis to things that are not very witty in themselves. I find the new small talk delightful and quite innocent.
Well, after that, I think it's time for us to go.
Oh, yes, we have 3 at homes to go to still. Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins. Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Professor Higgins.
Goodbye. Now, don't forget to try out the new small talk at your 3 at homes. Don't be nervous about it. Pitch it in strong.
I will. Goodbye. Such nonsense, all this early Victorian prudery.
Such damn nonsense.
Such bloody nonsense.
Clara.
Well, really. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Would you like to meet Miss Doolittle again?
Oh, yes, I should, most awfully.
Well, you know my days.
Yes. Thanks. Awfully.
Goodbye, Mr. Higgins.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
It's no use. I shall never be able to bring myself to use that word.
Well, don't. It's not compulsory, you know. You get on quite well without it.
Only Clara's so down on me unless I'm positively reeking with the latest slang. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You mustn't mind Clara. We're so poor and she gets so few parties, poor child. She doesn't quite know. But the boy is nice. Don't you think?
Oh, quite nice. I shall always be delighted to see him.
Oh, thank you, dear. Goodbye.
Well, Mother, is Eliza presentable?
Silly boy, of course she's not presentable. She's a triumph of your art and of her dressmakers. But if you suppose she doesn't give herself away with every sentence she utters, you must be perfectly cracked about it.
But don't you think something ought to be done? I mean, something to eliminate the sanguinary element from her conversation.
Not as long as she's in Henry's hands.
Do you mean to say that my language is improper?
No, dearest. It would be perfectly proper, say, on a canal barge. But it would not be proper for her at a garden party.
Well, I must say.
Colonel Pickering, will you tell me what is the exact state of things in Wimpole Street?
Well, I have come to move in there with Henry. We work together at my Indian dialects, and we think it more convenient.
Yes, yes, I know all about that. It's an excellent arrangement. But where does this girl live?
Well, with us, of course. Where else should she live?
But on what terms? Is she a servant? If not, what is she?
I think I know what you mean.
Well, I'm dashed if I do. I've had to work every day for months to get that girl to her present pitch. Besides, she's useful. She knows where my things are and reminds me of my appointments and so forth.
How does your housekeeper get on with her?
Mrs. Pierce, well, she's jolly glad to have so much taken off her hands. Well, before Eliza came, she had to find my things and remember my appointments. But she's got some silly bee in her bonnet about Eliza. She keeps on saying, "You don't think, sir." As if I ever stopped thinking about the girl and her confounded vowels and consonants. I'm worn out with thinking and watching her lips, her teeth, her tongue, not to mention her soul, which is the quaintest of the lot.
You certainly are a pretty pair of babies playing with your live doll.
Playing? The hardest job that I have ever tackled. Make no mistake about that, Mother, but you have no idea how frightfully interesting it is to take a human being and change her into a quite different human being by creating a new speech for her. It's It's like filling the deepest gulf that separates class from class and soul from soul.
Extremely interesting. I assure you, my dear Mrs. Higgins, we take Eliza very seriously. Every week, every day almost, there's some new change. We keep a record of every stage, dozens of gramophone discs and phonographs.
Yes, by George, it's the most absorbing experiment that I have ever tackled. It regularly fills our lives up, doesn't it, Peg?
We never stop talking, Eliza.
Teaching Eliza.
Dressing Eliza?
What?
Inventing
I
new Eliza.
assure you, my dear Mrs. Higgins, that girl is a genius.
Like a
She
parrot.
plays the piano
I've tried
quite
all sorts of
beautifully.
human
We've taken
sounds.
to classical
African
concerts,
dialects,
music hall,
continental
and it's all the
dialects,
same to her.
hot and
She
pot
plays everything
tricks,
straight to it.
things
Comes
that have
home
taken
with
me a year to get hold
high
of.
line of
And she
mountain or
picks them up
Beethoven
like
Brahms
first shot as
with
though
six
she's
times
been doing it all her life.
I beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, Mother, when Pickering starts shouting, nobody can get a word in edgeways.
Be quiet, Henry. Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that when Eliza walked into Wimpole Street, something walked in with her?
Her father did, but Henry soon got rid of him.
It would have been more to the point if her mother had. But as her mother didn't, something else did.
But what?
A problem.
Oh, I see. The problem of how to pass off as a lady.
Well, I'll solve that problem. I've half solved it already.
No, you two infinitely stupid male creatures. The problem of what is to be done with her afterwards.
Well, I don't see anything in that. She can go her own way with all the advantages that I've given her.
Advantages? The manners and habits that disqualify a fine lady from earning her own living without giving her a fine lady's income.
Oh.
Is that what you mean?
That will be all right, Mrs. Higgins.
We'll find her some light employment.
Don't you worry. She's happy enough. Goodbye.
There's no good bothering about it now, Mother. The thing is done. Goodbye.
There are plenty of openings. We'll do what's best. Goodbye.
Let's take her to the Shakespeare exhibition at Earl's Court.
Yes, yes. Her remarks will be delicious.
Yes, and then she can mimic all the people for us when we get home.
Ripping! Ripping!
Oh, men, men, men.
Lord and Lady Jolton. Lord and Lady Abercraven. Lord
Maestro. Maestro! Oh, you remember me?
No, I don't. Who the devil are you?
I am your pupil.
Captain
your first
Spiegel.
pupil. Your best and greatest pupil. I am little Nepomuk, the marvelous boy. I have made your name famous throughout Europe. You teach me phonetic. You cannot forget me.
Why don't you shave?
I have not your imposing appearance, your chin, your brow. Nobody notices me when I shave. Now I am
His Excellency,
famous.
the Greek
They call me
ambassador.
hairy-faced Dick.
What are you doing here amongst all these swells?
Excellency, the Greek
I am
ambassador.
interpreter. I speak 32 languages. I am indispensable at all these international parties. You are great Cockney specialist. You place a man anywhere in
Lord
London
and
the
Lady
moment he opens his
Mountford.
mouth. I place any man in Europe.
Excuse me, you're wanted upstairs. Her Excellency cannot understand the Greek gentleman.
Oh, thank you. Yes, immediately. This Greek diplomatist pretends he cannot speak or understand English. He cannot deceive me. He is the son of a Clerkenwell watchmaker. He speaks English so villainously that he dare not utter a word of it without betraying his origin. I help him to pretend, but I make him pay through the nose. I make them all pay.
Is this fellow really an expert? Can he find out Eliza and blackmail her?
Well, if he does, I lose my bet.
Their Highnesses the Maharaja and the Maharani of Jamnavar and the Princess Parvati.
Now for it. Are you ready?
Are you nervous, Colonel?
Oh, frightfully. I feel exactly as I felt before my first battle. It's the first time that frightens.
It's not the first time for me, Colonel. I've done this 50 times before, hundreds of times in my dreams.
Ready?
Ready.
Go.
Miss Doolittle, Colonel Pickering, and Professor Higgins. Miss Doolittle, Colonel Pickering, and Professor Higgins.
How do you do?
How do you do?
How do you do?
How do you do, Pickering?
How do you do?
Is that your adopted daughter, Colonel Pickering? She will make a sensation.
Most kind of you to invite her for me.
Find out all about her.
Excellency.
How do you do, Higgins? We have a rival here tonight. He introduced himself as your pupil. Is he any good?
Learns a language in a fortnight, knows dozens of them. Sure sign of a fool. As a phonetician, no good whatever.
How do you do, Professor?
Frightful bore for you, all this. Do forgive my part in it. I don't know. Oh, that's Colonel Yes, very enjoyable.
Tell us all about the wonderful young lady, Professor.
What wonderful young lady?
You know very well. They tell me there's been nothing like her in London since people stood on their chairs to look at Mrs. Langtry. Well, here you are at last, Mortimer. Have you found out all about the Doolittle lady?
I have found out all about her. She is a fraud.
Fraud? Oh, no.
Yes, yes, she cannot deceive me. Her name cannot be Doolittle.
Why?
Because Doolittle is an English name and she is not English.
Oh, nonsense. She speaks English perfectly.
Too perfectly. Only foreigners who have been taught to speak it well.
But if she's not English, what is she?
Hungarian.
Hungarian?
Hungarian and of royal blood. I am Hungarian. My blood is royal.
Did you speak to her in Hungarian?
I did. She was very clever. She said, please speak to me in English. I do not understand French. French! She pretend not to know the difference between Hungarian and French. Impossible. She knows both.
And the royal blood. How did you find out about that?
Instinct, maestro. Instinct. Only the Magyar races can produce that air of the divine right. Those resolute eyes. She is a princess.
What do you say, Professor?
I say that she is a common London girl brought up in the gutter and taught to speak properly by an expert. I place her in Drury Lane.
Oh, maestro, maestro.
And what do you say, Your Excellency?
Of course, I agree with Nepomuk. She must be a princess at least.
Not necessarily legitimate, of course. Morganetic, perhaps. That's undoubtedly her class.
Well, I stick to my opinion.
Oh, you are incorrigible.
Where's Eliza? We must keep an eye on her.
I don't think I can bear much more. People all stare so at me. An old lady just told me I speak exactly like Queen Victoria. I'm sorry I've lost your bet. I've done my best, but nothing can make me the same as these people.
You haven't lost it, my dear. You've won it 10 times over.
Let's get out of this. I've had enough. I say, pick lock up, will you? I shan't be going out again.
Right, can Mrs. Pierce go to bed? We don't want her any more, do we?
Lord, no. Lord!
I said, Mrs. Pierce will row if we leave these things lying about in the drawing room.
Chuck 'em over the banisters into the hall. She'll find them there in the morning and put them away, all right. She'll think we were drunk.
We are slightly.
Yes.
Oh, are there any letters?
I didn't look. I wonder where the devil my slippers are.
Only circulars and this coroneted billet-doux for you.
Oh, money lender. Oh, Lord, what an evening, what a crew, what a silly tomfoolery. Oh, they're there, are they?
Well, I'm tired. Been a long day. Garden party, dinner party, and the reception. Rather too much of a good thing. But you won your bet, Higgins. Eliza did the trick and something to spare, eh?
Thank God it's over.
Were you nervous at the garden party? I was. Eliza didn't seem a bit nervous.
No, she wasn't nervous. I knew she'd be all right. No, it was the strain of putting the job through all these months that told on me. It was interesting enough while we were at the phonetics, but after that I grew deadly sick of it. If I hadn't have backed myself to do it, I'd have chucked the whole thing up months ago. Oh. It was a silly notion. The whole thing has been a bore.
Oh, calm, calm. The garden party was frightfully exciting. My heart started beating like anything.
Yes, for the first 2 or 3 minutes when I saw we were going to win hands down, I felt like a bear in a cage hanging about doing nothing. The dinner was worse, sitting gorging there for over an hour with nobody but a damn fool of a fashionable woman to talk to.
You've never been broken in properly to the social routine. I rather enjoy dipping into it occasionally myself. It makes me feel young again. Anyhow, it was a great success, a tremendous success. I was a bit frightened once or twice because Eliza was doing it so well. You see, Lots of the real people can't do it at all. They're such fools. They think that style comes by nature to people in their position, so they never learn. There's something very professional about doing a thing superlatively well.
Yes, that's what drives me mad. The silly people don't know their own silly business. However, it's all over and done with now, and I can go to bed at last without dreading tomorrow.
I think I'll turn into stew. It's been a great occasion, a triumph for you. Good night.
Good night. Oh, turn out the lights, Eliza, and tell Mrs. Pierce not to bother with coffee in the morning. I'll take tea. What the devil have I done with my slippers?
There are your slippers. And may you never have a day's luck with them.
What on earth? What's the matter? Get up. Is anything wrong?
There's nothing wrong with you. I've won your bet for you, haven't I? That's enough for you. I don't matter, I suppose.
You've won my bet, you presumptuous insect. I won the bet. And what did you throw those slippers at me for?
Because I wanted to smash your face. I'd like to kill you, you selfish brute. Why didn't you leave me where you picked me out of in the gutter? You thank God and it's all over and you can throw me back there again now, do you?
Ah, the creature is nervous. Ah, would you? Claws in, you cat. Don't you dare show your temper to me. Sit down and be quiet.
What's to become of me? What's to become of me?
Well, how should I know what's to become of you? What the devil does it matter what becomes of you?
Don't care. I know you don't care. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I'm nothing to you. Not so much as them slippers.
Those slippers?
Those slippers! I didn't think it made any difference now.
Why have you begun going on like this? May I ask whether you complain of your treatment here? Has anyone behaved badly to you? Colonel Pickering, Mrs. Pierce, any of the servants?
No.
I presume you don't pretend that I have treated you badly. I'm very glad to hear it. Perhaps you're tired after the strain of the day. Would you like a glass of champagne?
No! Thank you.
This has been coming to you for days. I suppose it was natural that you should be anxious, but it's all over now. There's nothing more to worry about.
There's nothing more for you to worry about. Oh, God, I wish I was dead.
Why, in heaven's name, why? Listen to me, Eliza. All this irritation is purely subjective.
I don't understand. I'm too ignorant.
Look, it's in your imagination, low spirits, that's all. There's nothing wrong. Nobody's hurting you. Now, go to bed like a good girl and sleep it off. Have a little cry, say your prayers, and that'll make you comfortable.
I heard your prayers. Thank God it's all over.
Oh, don't you thank God it's all over? You're free now. You can do what you like.
But what am I fit for? What have you left me fit for? Where am I to go and what am I to do? What's to become of me?
That's what's worrying you, is it? Oh, I wouldn't bother about that if I was you. I should imagine you wouldn't have very much difficulty in settling yourself somewhere or other. Though I hadn't quite realized that you were going away. You might marry, of course. I mean, you're not bad looking. It's quite a pleasure to look on you sometimes. I mean, not now, of course. Now that you're crying, you look as ugly as the very devil. But when you're yourself and quite all right, you're what I should call attractive. That is, to persons in the marrying line, you understand. I dare say my mother could find you some chap or other who'd do very well.
We were above that at the corner of Tottenham Court Road.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself. Now you've made a lady of me, I'm not fit to sell anything else.
Oh, tosh, Eliza. Don't insult human relations by dragging in all this cant about buying and selling. If you don't love the fella, you needn't marry him.
And what else am I to do?
Well, lots of things. What about the old idea of the florist shop? Pickering could set you up in one. He's got lots of money. He's going to have to pay for all those togs you wore today, and that with the hire of the jewellery will make a large hole in £200. Come along. You'll be all right. Well, I must clear off to bed. I'm devilish sleepy. I came down here for something. I forget what it was.
Your slippers.
Oh, yes. Yes, my slippers. You shied them at me.
Before you go, sir...
Sir?
Do my clothes belong to me or to Colonel Pickering?
And what devil use would they be to Pickering?
He can give them to the next girl you pick up to experiment on.
Is that how you think about us, Eliza?
I want to know what I may take away with me. I don't want to be accused of stealing.
Stealing? Now, you shouldn't have said that, Eliza. That shows a want of feeling.
I'm sorry. I'm just a common, ignorant girl.
You can take the whole damn houseful if you want.
Stop, please. Will you take these to your room and keep them safe? I don't want to run the risk of their being missing.
If these belong to me, instead of to the jeweler, I would ram them down your ungrateful throat.
This ring isn't the jeweller's. It's the one you bought me in Brighton, and I don't want it now. Don't hit me!
Hit you? You infamous creature, how dare you accuse me of such a thing? It is you who have hit me. You have wounded me to the heart.
I'm glad. I've got a little of my own back anyhow.
You have caused me to lose my temper, which is a thing that has hardly ever happened to me before. I prefer to say nothing more about it tonight. I am going to bed.
You'd better leave a note for Mrs. Pierce about the coffee, for she won't be told by me.
Damn Mrs. Pierce, damn the coffee, and damn you, and damn my own folly, for having lavished my hard-earned knowledge and the treasure of my regard and intimacy upon a heartless guttersnipe.
Mr. Henry, ma'am, is downstairs with Colonel Pickering.
Well, show them up.
They're using the telephone, ma'am. Telephoning to the police, I think.
What?
Mr. Henry is in a state, ma'am. I thought I'd better tell you.
If you had told me Mr. Henry was not in a state, it would have been more surprising.
Yes, ma'am.
Go upstairs and tell Miss Doolittle that Mr. Henry and the Colonel are here. Ask her not to come down until I send for her.
I say, Mother, here's a confounded thing.
Yes, dear. Good morning.
Oh.
What is it?
Eliza's bolted.
You must have frightened her.
Frightened her? Nonsense. She was left last night as usual to turn out the lights and so forth, and instead of going to bed, she changed her clothes and went right off. She came in her cab for her things before 7 this morning, and that damn fool Mrs. Pierce let her have them without telling me a word about it. What am I to do?
Do without, I'm afraid, Henry. The girl has a perfect right to leave if she chooses.
But I can't find my things. I don't know what appointments I've got.
Good morning, Mrs. Higgins. Has Henry told you?
What did that ass of an inspector say? Did you offer any reward?
You don't mean to say you set the police after Eliza?
Well, of course. What are the police for? What else could we do?
The inspector made a lot of difficulties. I really think he suspected it of some improper purpose.
Well, of course he did. What right have you to give the girl's name to the police as if she were a thief or a lost umbrella or something? Really?
But we want to find her, Mother.
We couldn't let her go, you know, Mrs. Higgins. What were we to do?
You have no more sense, either of you, than 2 children. Why?
Mr. Henry, a gentleman wants to see you very particular. He's been sent on from Wimpole Street.
Oh, bother, I can't see anyone now. Who is it?
It's a Mr. Doolittle, sir.
Doolittle? You mean the dustman?
Dustman? Oh, no, sir. He's a gentleman.
I say, Pick, it's some relative of hers she's gone to. Someone we know nothing about. Send him up quick.
Yes, sir.
Genteel relatives. Now we shall hear something.
Do you know any of her people?
Only her father, the fellow we told you about.
Mr. Doolittle.
See here. Did you see this? You done this.
Done what, man?
This, I tell ya. Look at this hat. Look at this coat.
Has Eliza been buying you clothes?
Eliza, not she. Why would she buy me clothes?
Good morning, Mr. Doolittle.
Oh.
Won't you sit down?
Asking your pardon, Mum. Thank you. I am that full of what's happened to me. I can't think of anything else.
Well, what the dickens has happened to you?
Anything might happen to anybody. And nobody to blame but Providence, as you might say. But this is something you done to me. Yes, you. Henry Higgins.
Have you found Eliza?
Have you lost her?
Yes.
You have all the luck you have. I haven't found her, but she'll find me now quick enough after what you've done to me.
But what has my son done to you, Mr. Doolittle?
Done to me. Ruined me. Destroyed me happiness. Tied me up and delivered me into the hands of middle-class morality.
You're raving, you're drunk, you're mad. I gave you £5. Since then, we have had 2 conversations at £0.50 an hour, and I have never seen you since.
Oh! Drunk am I? Mad am I? Tell me this. Did you, or did you not, write a letter to an old blighter in America that was giving $5 million to found model reform societies all over the world, and that wanted you to invent a universal language for him?
You mean Ezra D. won a fella, but he's dead?
Yes, he's dead, and I'm done for. Now, did you, or did you not, write a letter to him to say that the most original moralist at present in England, to the best of your knowledge, was Alfred Doolittle, a common dustman?
Well, I think after your first visit I made some silly joke of the kind.
Ah! You may well call it a silly joke. It put the lid on me right enough. Just give him a chance he wanted to show that Americans is not like us. That they recognise and respect merit in every class of life, however humble. Them words is in his blooming will, Henry Higgins. In which, thanks to your silly joking, he leaves me a share in his pre-digested cheese trust worth $3,000 a year on condition I'll lecture to his one-a-fella Model Reform World League as often as they want me to, up to 6 times a year.
Definitely does. Phew, what a lark.
It ain't the lecturing I mind. I'll lecture 'em blue in the face, I will. I'll never turn an hair. It's making a gentleman of me that I object to. Who asked him to make a gentleman of me? I was happy. I was free. I touched nigh everybody for money when I wanted it. Same as I touched you, Henry Higgins. Now, I am worried. Tied neck and heels and everybody touching me for money. But I'm not let to do an hand's turn for myself. Somebody else must do it and touch me for it. A year ago, I hadn't a relative in the world. So for 2 or 3, they wouldn't speak to me. Now, I have 50, and not a decent week's wages amongst a lot of them. I have to live for others, and not for myself. Just middle-class morality. You talk a losing Liza. Don't you be anxious. She's on my doorstep by this. She that could support herself easy by selling flowers if I wasn't respectable. And the next one to touch me will be you, Henry Higgins. I'll have to learn to speak middle-class language from you instead of speaking proper English. That's where you'll come in. And I dare say, that's what you done it for.
But, my dear Mr. Doolittle, you needn't suffer all this if you're really in earnest. No one can force you to accept this bequest. You can repudiate it. Isn't that so, Colonel Pickering?
I believe so.
That's the tragedy of it, Mom. It's easy to say. Chuck it. I haven't the nerve. Which of us has? We're all intimidated. Intimidated, Mom, that's what we are. What is there for me if I chuck it? But the workers in my old age? I have to dye my hair already to keep my job as a dustman. If I was one of the deserving poor and had put by a bit, I could chuck it. But then why should I? Of course, the deserving poor might as well be millionaires for all the happiness they ever has. They don't know what happiness is. But I, as one of the undeserving poor, have nothing between me and a pauper's uniform but this here blasted 3,000 a year that shoved me into the middle class. Intimidated, that's what I am. Broke. Bought up. Happier men than me will call for my dust and touch me for their tip. And I'll look on, helpless, and hen with them. That's what your son has brought me to.
Well, I'm very glad you're not going to do anything foolish, Mr. Doolittle, for this solves the problem of Eliza's future. You can provide for her now.
Yes, but I have to provide for everybody now, out of 3,000 a year.
He can't provide for her, he shan't provide for her, she doesn't belong to him. I gave him £5 for the girl. Doolittle, either you are a rogue or an honest fellow.
Well, a little of both, Henry, like the rest of us, a little of both.
But you took money for that girl. You can't take the girl as well.
Don't be absurd, Henry. If you want to know where Eliza is, she's upstairs.
Upstairs? Well, I'll jolly soon fetch her downstairs.
Be quiet, Henry. Sit down. Sit down, dear, and listen to me.
Oh, very well, Mother. But I think you might have told us all this half an hour ago.
Eliza came to me this morning. She told me of the brutal way you two had treated her.
What?
I'm afraid she's telling you stories, Mrs. Higgins. We didn't treat her brutally. Higgins, did you bully her after I went to bed?
No, just the other way about. She threw my slippers in my face, she behaved in the most outrageous way, and I never gave her the slightest provocation.
Then why? What did we do to her?
I think I know pretty well what you did. The girl is naturally rather affectionate, I think. Isn't she, Mr. Doolittle?
Very tender-hearted, Mom. Takes after me.
Just so. She'd become attached to you both. She worked very hard for you, Henry. I don't think you quite realise what anything in the nature of brain work means to a girl of her class. Well, it seems that when the great day of trial came, and she did this wonderful thing for you without making a single mistake, you two sat there and never said a word to her, but talked together of how glad you were it was all over and how you'd been bored by the whole thing. Then you were surprised because she threw your slippers at you. I should have thrown the fire irons at you.
We said nothing except that we were tired and wanted to go to bed, didn't we,
That was all.
Quite sure?
Absolutely, really, that was all.
You didn't thank her or pet her or admire her or tell her how splendid she'd been.
But she knew all that. We didn't make speeches to her, if that's what you mean.
Perhaps we were a little inconsiderate. Is she very angry?
Well, I'm afraid she won't go back to Wimpole Street. But she says she's quite willing to meet you on friendly terms and to let bygones be bygones.
Is she, by George? Huh.
If you promise to behave, Henry, I'll ask her to come down. If not, go home, for you've taken up quite enough of my time.
Oh, very well, Mother. Pick, you look after this girl we picked up out of the mud.
Remember your promise, Henry. Mr. Doolittle, will you be so good as to step out onto the balcony for a moment? I don't want Eliza to have the shock of your news until she's made it up with these two gentlemen. Would you mind?
As you wish, lady. Anything to help Henry keep her off my hands.
Ask Miss Doolittle to come down, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, be good.
I am behaving myself perfectly, Mother.
He's trying, Mrs. Higgins.
Henry, dearest, you don't look at all nice in that attitude.
I'm not trying to look nice, Mother.
It's all right, dear. I only wanted to make you speak.
Why?
Because you can't speak and whistle at the same time.
Well, where the devil is that girl? We'd wait here for her all day.
How do you do, Professor Higgins? Are you quite well?
Am I
Of course, you are never ill. So glad to see you again, Colonel Pickering. Quite chilly this morning.
Don't you dare try this game on me, Eliza. I taught it to you. It doesn't take me in. Now get up, come home, and stop being a fool.
Very nicely put indeed, Henry. No woman could resist such an invitation.
You leave her alone, Mother. Let her talk for herself. We'll jolly soon see whether she has an idea that I didn't put into her head or a word that I didn't put into her mouth.
Yes, dear, but you'll sit down, won't you?
Will you drop me altogether now that the experiment is over, Colonel Pickering?
Oh, don't. You mustn't think of it as an experiment, Miss Doolittle. It shocks me somehow.
Oh, I'm only a squashed cabbage leaf.
No,
but I owe so much to you that I should be very unhappy if you forgot me.
That's very kind of you to say so, Miss Doolittle.
It was from you that I learnt really nice manners, and that is what makes one a lady, isn't it? It was so very hard for me with the example of Professor Higgins always before me. I was brought up to be just like him, unable to control myself in using bad language at the slightest provocation, and I should never have known that ladies and gentlemen don't behave like that if you hadn't been there.
Well, oh, if that's only his way, you know. He doesn't mean it. He taught you to speak, and I couldn't have done that, you know.
Of course, that is his profession.
Damnation!
It was just like learning to dance in a fashionable way. There was nothing more than that in it. But do you know what began my real education?
What?
Your calling me Miss Doolittle that first day I came to Wimpole Street. That was the beginning of self-respect for me. There were 100 other little things that you didn't notice because they came naturally to you. Things about standing up, taking off your hat, opening doors. You see, really and truly, apart from the things that anyone can pick up, the dressing, the way of speaking and so on, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she is treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins because he always treats me as a flower girl and always will. But I know I can be a lady to you because you always treat me as a lady and always will.
Please don't grind your teeth, Henry.
Well, this really is very nice of you, Miss Doolittle.
I should like you to call me Eliza now, if you would.
Thank you. Of course, Eliza.
And I should like Professor Higgins to call me Miss Doolittle.
See you damn first.
Henry.
Why don't you slang back again? Don't stamp it. It would be good for it.
I can't. I could have once, but I can't go back to it now. You told me, you know, that when a child goes to a foreign country, it picks up the language in a few weeks and forgets its own. Well, I'm a child in your country, and I've forgotten my own language. That is the real break-off with the corner of Tottenham Court Road. Leaving Wimpole Street finishes it.
But you are coming back to Wimpole Street, aren't you? You will forgive Higgins?
Forgive? Will she, by George? Let her go. We'll soon see how she gets on without us. She will relapse into the gutter within 3 weeks without me at her elbow.
He's incorrigible, Eliza. You won't relapse, will you?
No, not me. Never again. I've learned my lesson. I don't think I could utter one of those old sounds now if I tried. Ow!
Ha-ha! Just so. Ow! Victory! Victory! Ow!
And you blame the girl. But don't look at me like that, Eliza. It ain't my fault. I come into some money.
You must have touched a millionaire this time, Dad.
Oh, I have. But I'm doing something special today. I'm going to St. George's, Hanover Square. Your stepmother is going to marry me.
You are going to let yourself down to marry that low, common woman?
He ought to, Eliza. Why did she change her mind?
Intimidated, Governor, intimidated. Middle-class morality claims its victim. Won't you put your hat on and come and see me turned off, Eliza?
Well, if the Colonel says I must, I'll demean myself and get insulted for my pains like enough.
Now, don't be afraid. The poor woman never comes to words with anybody now. Respectability has broke all the spirit out of her.
Oh, be kind to them, Eliza. Make the best of it.
Well, just to show there's no ill feeling. I'll be back in a moment.
Well, I feel uncommon nervous about the ceremony, Colonel. I wish you'd come and see me through it.
You've been through it before, man. You were married to Eliza's mother.
Who told you that, Colonel?
Well, nobody, but I concluded, naturally.
No, that ain't the natural way, Colonel. That's only the middle-class way. My way is always the undeserving way. But don't say nothing about it to Eliza. She don't know. I've always had a delicacy about telling her.
Quite right. We'll leave it so.
And you'll come to the church and put me through straight, Colonel?
With pleasure.
May I come too, Mr. Doolittle? I should be very sorry to miss your wedding.
I should indeed be honoured by your condescension, Mom. And my poor old woman would take it as a tremendous compliment. She'd been very low, thinking of the happy days that are no more.
I'll order the carriage and get ready. I shan't be more than a few minutes. I'm going to the church to see your father married, Eliza. You had better come in the brougham with me. Colonel Pickering can go on with the bridegroom.
Bridegroom. What a word. It makes a man realise his position somehow.
Before I go, Eliza, you will forgive Higgins and come back with us?
I don't think Dad would allow me, would you, Dad?
They played you all very cunning, Eliza. Them two sportsmen. If it had only been one of them, you could have nailed him. But there was two of them, you see, and the one chaperoned the others, you might say. It was artfully you, Colonel. But I don't bear no malice. I'd have done the same thing myself. I've been the victim of one woman after another all my life, so I don't grudge you getting the better of Eliza. I shan't interfere. Well, it's time for us to go, Colonel. So long, Henry. See me to St. George's, like...
Do stay with us, Eliza.
Well, Eliza, you've had a bit of your own back, as you call it. Have you had enough? Are you going to be reasonable? Or do you want any more?
You want me back only to pick up your slippers and put up with your tempers and fetch and carry for me?
I haven't said I wanted you back at all.
Oh, indeed. Then what are we talking about?
About you, not about me. If you come back, I shall treat you just as I have always treated you. I cannot change my nature, and I do not intend to change my manners.
I see.
The great secret, Eliza, is not having good manners or bad manners or any other particular sort of manners, but having the same manners for every human soul. In short, behaving as if you were in heaven where there are no third-class carriages, and one soul is as good as another.
Amen. You are a born preacher.
The question is not whether I treat you rudely, Eliza, but whether you have ever heard me treat anyone else better.
I don't care how you treat me. I don't mind your swearing at me. I shouldn't mind a black eye. I've had one before this. But I won't be passed over.
Well, then get out of my way, for I shan't stop for you. You talk about me as if I were a motor bus.
So you are a motor bus, all bounce and go and no consideration for anyone, but I can do without you. Don't you think I can't?
I know you can. I told you you could.
I know you did, you brute. You wanted to get rid of me.
Liar.
Thank you.
You never asked yourself, I suppose, whether I could do without you.
It's no good trying to get round me now. You'll have to do without me.
I can do without anybody. I have my own soul, my own spark of divine fire. But I shall miss you, Eliza. I've learnt something from your idiotic notions. I confess that humbly and gratefully. And I've grown accustomed to your voice and your appearance. I like them, rather.
Well, you have both of them in your book of photographs and on your gramophone. When you feel lonely without me, you can turn the machine on. It's got no feelings to hurt.
I can't turn your soul on. Leave me those feelings. You can take away the voice and the face. They're not you.
Oh, you are a devil. You know how to twist the heart in a girl as easy as some would twist her arms to hurt her. But you don't care a bit for me.
I care for life and I care for humanity. And you're a part of it that has come my way and been built into my house. What more can you or anyone ask?
I won't care for anyone that doesn't care for me.
Commercial principles, Eliza. Like selling voilets, isn't it?
Don't sneer at me. It's mean to sneer at me.
I have never sneered in my life. I don't and I won't trade in affection. If you come back for the sake of good fellowship, for you will get nothing else. You've had 1,000 times as much out of me as I've had out of you. And if you dare to set up your little dog's tricks of fetching and carrying slippers against my creation of a duchess, Eliza, I shall slam the door in your silly face.
But what did you do it for if you didn't care for me? You never thought of the trouble it would make for me.
Would the world ever have been made if its maker had been afraid of making trouble? Making life means making trouble. The only way of getting rid of trouble is by killing things. Cowards, you may notice, are always shrieking for troublesome people to be killed.
I'm not a preacher. I don't notice things like that. I notice that you don't notice me.
Eliza, you are an idiot. I waste the treasures of my Miltonic mind by spreading them before you. But let this be understood once and for all, that I go my way and I do my work without caring tuppence what happens to either of us. I am not intimidated like your father and your stepmother. So you can come back, or you can go to the devil, which you please.
What am I to come back for?
Oh, for the fun of it. That's why I took you on.
And you may turn me out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to.
Yes, and you may walk out on me tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to.
And go and live with my stepmother.
Sell flowers?
Oh, if only I could go back to my flower basket. I'd be independent of father and you and all the world. Why did you take my independence from me? Why did I give it up? I'm a slave now for all my fine clothes.
Not at all. I'll adopt you as my daughter, or settle some money on you, or would you rather marry Pickering?
I wouldn't marry you if you asked me, and you're nearer my age than what he is.
Then he is, not then what he is.
I'll talk as I like. You're not my teacher now.
I suppose Pickering would, though. He is as confirmed an old bachelor as I am.
That's not what I want. And don't think it. I've always had chaps enough wanting me that way. Freddie Hill writes to me 2 or 3 times a day, sheets and sheets.
Damn his impudence.
He has a right to if he likes, poor lad, and he does love me.
You have no right to encourage him.
Every girl has a right to be loved.
What, by fools like that?
Freddie's not a fool. And if he's weak and poor and wants me, maybe he can make me happier than my betters who bully me and don't want me.
Well, can he make anything of you? That's the point.
Maybe I could make something of him. I never thought of us making anything of one another, and you never think of anything else. I just want to be natural.
You want me to be as infatuated about you as Freddie is that it?
No, I don't. I just want a little kindness. I know I'm a common, ignorant girl, and you a book-learned gentleman, but I'm not dirt under your feet. What I done, what I did, was not for the dresses and the taxis, but because we were pleasant together, and I came to care for you. Not wanting you to make love to me. Not forgetting the difference between us, but more friendly-like.
Of course, Eliza. That's how I feel. It's how Pickering feels. You are an idiot.
That's not a proper answer to give me.
Well, it's the only one you're going to get until you stop being a common fool. If you want to be a lady, you must give up feeling neglected if the men you know don't spend half their time snivelling over you and the other half giving you black eyes. If you can't stand the coldness of my sort of life and the strain of it, then go back to the gutter. Work till you're more a brute than a human being, then cuddle, squabble, drink until you fall asleep. Oh, it's a fine life, the life of the gutter. It's warm, it's real, it's violent. You can feel it through the thickest skin, you can taste it, you can smell it without any work, without any training. Not like science and literature, classical music, philosophy and art. Now, you find me cold, selfish and unfeeling. Very well, then. Be off with you to the people you like. Marry some sentimental hog or other with lots of money and a thick pair of lips to kiss you with and a thick pair of boots to kick you with. If you can't appreciate what you've got, then you had better get what you can appreciate.
I can't talk to you. You turn everything against me. You know I can't go back to the gutter, as you call it. The only real friends I have in the world are you and the Colonel. But don't you be so sure that you have me under your feet to be trampled on and talked down. I'll marry Freddie, I will, as soon as I'm able to support him.
Freddie? That fool, that idiot who couldn't get a job as an errand boy even if he had the guts to try for it. Woman, do you not understand that I have made you a consort for a king?
Freddie loves me, and that makes him king enough for me. I don't want him to work. He wasn't brought up to it as I was. I'll go and be a teacher.
And what will you teach, may I ask?
You taught me. I'll teach phonetics. I'll offer myself as an assistant to that hairy-faced Hungarian.
What, that humbug, that imposter, that toading ignoramus teaching my discoveries, my methods? You take one step in his direction and I will wring your neck. Do you hear?
Wring away. What do I care? I knew you'd strike me one day. Oh, now I know how to deal with you. What a fool I was not to think of it before. You can't take away the knowledge you gave me. You said I had a finer ear than you, and I can be civil and kind to people, which is more than you can. Aha, that's done you, Henry Higgins, that has! Now I don't give that for your bullying and your big talk. I shall advertise in the papers that your Duchess is a flower girl that you taught, and that she'll teach anyone to be a Duchess just the same in 6 months for 1,000 guineas. When I think of myself crawling under your feet and being trampled on and talked down, when all I had to do was lift up my finger to be as good as you, I could kick myself.
Why, you damned impudent slut, you. But this is better than snivelling, isn't it? better than fetching slippers and finding spectacles. By George, Eliza, I said that I'd make a woman out of you, and I have. I like you like this.
Yes, you turn round and make up to me now that I'm not afraid of you and can do without you.
Well, of course I do, you silly fool. 5 minutes ago, you were like a millstone round my neck. Now you are a tower of strength, a consort battleship. You and I and Pickering will be 3 old bachelors instead of 2 men and a silly girl.
The carriage is waiting, Eliza. Are you ready?
Quite. Is the professor coming?
Certainly not. He can't behave himself in church. He keeps making remarks out loud all the time on the clergyman's pronunciation.
Then I shall not see you again, Professor. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, Mother. Oh, Eliza, order me a Stilton cheese and a ham, and a pair of reindeer gloves, number 8s, and a tie to go with that new suit of mine. You can choose the colour.
Number 8s are too small for you if you want them lined with lamb's wool. There are 3 new ties you have forgotten in the drawer under your washstand. Colonel Pickering prefers double Gloucester to Stilton, and you don't notice the difference. I telephoned Mrs. Pierce this morning not to forget the ham. What you are to do without me, I cannot imagine.
I'm afraid you've spoiled that girl, Henry. I should be uneasy about you and her if she were less fond of Colonel Pickering.
Pickering? Nonsense! She's going to marry Freddie! Freddie!